Hopefully this will be a short video on the theme of 2.5.2 legislation and employee protection. So I introduced the topic in the video on consumer protection. So let's look at employee protection. So again, legislation are laws designed to protect various stakeholders, and they're rules that businesses have to comply with. And so employee protection, obviously the aim of employee protection laws is to protect employees. There are absolutely tons of laws that affect businesses. Some important ones include the Equality Act, which I believe was 2010, which effectively says you are not allowed to discriminate against people depending on any of their kind of immutable characteristics, i.e. you cannot discriminate against someone based on their gender, age, race, religion, any way of identifying of a person. You're not allowed to discriminate based on that. So in other words, the only thing you can discriminate candidates on is the degree of their qualifications. The best qualified person for the job should get that job, regardless of their whether they're able-bodied, whether they're black, white, whether they're male, female. Doesn't matter, right? So that's the Equality Act. It affects recruitment, the national minimum wage, affect the hourly payments, the minimum hourly payments that can be given, also sometimes called the national living wage. There is a slight difference. I won't get into the technicalities, but essentially there is protection about the amount of money that employees should get paid. And there's also a working time directive about the number of hours. There's sick pay, there's holiday pay, all sorts of laws that affect employment, but these are some of the main ones. So basically, what do they mean? All employees should be treated equally. Men and women should be paid equally for equal work. Everyone's entitled to a national minimum wage. There are rights about having a written contract, the working hours, redundancy, dismissal, flexible working, all of these things. There are rights to trade union representation in the UK. Everyone has the right to join a trade union if they want to. So all of those are employee protection laws. So there are some benefits to businesses of having employment protection laws. So these are around basically more motivated staff. Okay, so you can link this to Maslow in terms of the hierarchy of needs. These laws will predominantly affect those sort of base level needs, the physiological needs, ensuring that people are well rested, that they have breaks to eat and things like that, but also security, job security, etc. So you can link a lot of these laws to Maslow's sort of lower level, base level needs. All right, they often fulfill a lot of those things. The benefits to businesses of following, for example, the Equality Act is that there should be more diversity and inclusion, which can lead to better decision making. If having a range of employees with different views and different life experiences contributes towards better decisions being made within the organisation. And I believe that there is research that shows the more diverse a workforce, the more likely the business is to be profitable, and that could be argued that it's a result of better decision making. There should be more applicants for jobs if people believe they're going to be treated fairly, and workers should be more efficient if they are motivated. However, there are the costs of monitoring and reporting these things. Basically the costs of ensuring that the recruitment process is fair and there's no sort of subconscious bias going on. So often lots of businesses will use things like nameless applications, which creates a bit of admin because you've got a separate application form and name. Okay, so the reason is that sometimes people with names that aren't kind of a standard British name might find themselves discriminated against. So you have to adjust your procedures basically. Then you've got to monitor to ensure that people are paid fairly, men and women. You have to report these things, so that is a cost to business. It's also, of course, harder to dismiss staff if they've got employment rights, which means a loss of flexibility. You can't just tell people that they are, surplus to requirements and get rid of them. If you're going to make someone redundant, it means they haven't done anything wrong, but their job no longer exists, and you have to, prove that their job is no longer existing. You have to see if you can reallocate them elsewhere before you make them redundant. It's just much harder for businesses to be flexible. And like I mentioned, there's the cost of following the laws. So, like I say, the nameless applications, the training of your recruitment, your HR team to make sure there is no discrimination in the recruitment process, the cost of increasing people's wages when the national minimum wage goes up. All of these are costs to businesses of employment protection laws. Of course, as I said in the last video on consumer protection, it's always worth thinking about what would happen if these laws weren't in place, and generally you'd have probably a more unhappy workforce, less motivated. So again, there are definitely benefits to businesses of employee protection.